Good evening, Facebook family. It is 9 o'clock. It is March the 2nd, the year 2026, and we're here for another episode of Pajama Praise. I'm excited tonight. Our special guest is in the waiting room, Miss Marveta Johnson, and she's going to tell her story. She's going to talk about what she's doing. She's going to give you a story about her life. And so we're going to bring her in just a minute, our special guest, Miss Marveta Johnson. Before we bring her in, I want us to remember the family of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Reverend Jesse Jackson, civil rights leader and a preacher. You know, most people know he's a civil rights leader, but he was a preacher. I had the opportunity, I think it was around 1995 or 96. He came to Fort Worth and preached at one of the National Baptist Convention of America board meetings down at the Worthington Hotel. Had a chance to hear him preach, and man, he was a phenomenal preacher. You know, most people heard him speak about other things, but I think very few actually had an opportunity to hear him preach. He was a dynamic preacher, but we want to remember his family tonight, remember our nation, because of people like him, Jesse Jackson, putting their lives on the line. We're able to do certain things today. We can't ever forget that. You know, sometimes we forget, and then generations come and they don't know. In the Bible, it talks about there arose a Pharaoh that knew not Joseph, and so some people don't know the works that people did before them. Hey, Andrea Sanders, how are you doing? Andrea Sanders, hey, listen, March the 30th of this month is going to make 6 years of Pajama Praise. I want you to be my guest before that, maybe the week before. I want you to be on as my special guest. How about that, Andrea Sanders? Because you inspired Pajama Praise. But back to Reverend Jesse Jackson again. We want to remember his family, remember our country. Our country right now, we're involved in a war of sorts. I don't know that we're at war, but we're involved because American lives are being lost, and our resources are being used in the war. And so we want to remember our country, those people who put their lives on the line to protect our country. You know, we talk about democracy. Democracy is not free. I mean, it costs somebody something, costs lives. And so we want to remember those people that are putting their lives on the line to ensure that we can live in the United States safely. Also, we want to remember the families of those service men and women that lost their lives. We want to remember those families tonight. So let's pray for them. And y'all know what tomorrow is? Tomorrow is Election Day. If you did not early vote, I early voted 2 weeks ago. And so y'all need to go and vote. You need to go and vote. Some people say, well, it doesn't matter who you vote for as long as you vote. Yeah, it does matter who you vote for. I promise you it does. And I think we're seeing the results of it don't matter who you vote for. Yeah, it does matter. I am proud to say that I voted for Lisa Simmons right here. She's running for county judge. If you don't think it matters, then you go down to the commissioner's court. It matters. Y'all go in and vote for Lisa Simmons. I voted for Jasmine Crockett. Shared a couple of weeks ago in a post that I did. I actually sat down and listened to what she was talking about, listened to her platform. She's an extremely intelligent young lady. I mean, she knows what she's talking about. She knows what's going on. You know, some people are flattered by her ability to clap back. But listen, man, she is a sharp young lady. I mean, extremely intelligent, well-educated. And so we need people. She's extremely emotionally intelligent. That's a huge part of who we send to represent us. Are these people emotionally intelligent? Yeah, I know they might be sharp and articulate, but are they emotionally intelligent? And so we want to make sure you guys go and vote tomorrow. Go and vote. Um, take your lunch and go and vote, or go early in the morning, or tell your boss you need to leave early so you can go and vote. Whatever the case may be, go and do it, because when you don't vote, you voted. And so make sure that you take that opportunity. You know, so many people gave their lives for us to have the opportunity to vote. I was looking at a documentary today on Facebook. It was talking about history, how people gave their lives so that we could vote. You know, they put in the different poll taxes and all of that to keep us from voting. So I promise you, the ability to vote is a big deal, and we should always take advantage of that. It's a right and a privilege. It's a right and a privilege. Our forefathers gave us the privilege of voting because they put their lives on the line, and now it's a right because we are people that pay taxes, and so we have a right to vote. We have a voice, and we need to use it. And then also another thing I want to mention is we are still accepting choir members for the TCC Community Gospel Choir. And so the classes run every semester, and our classes are broken up into 8 weeks. And so after spring break, we will start the second part of our class. And so the cost is only $25 now. And so I'm going to put some information up on the screen so you can see. And so there's the information there. The course fee is $25. Now, this is the second part of the semester. The class numbers are there. And so we meet on Tuesday mornings from 10:30 until noon, and then on Thursdays from 6:30 p.m. until 8 p.m. And I guarantee you, you'll have a great time in the TCC Community Gospel Choir. We're still excited from having sung at Baylor last week. Last week on the 21st of February, we went down to Baylor. They had their Gospel Fest. There were other college choirs there, UNT, TCU, Baylor, and then the college from, I can't remember. There was another college there, but some incredibly talented young people there. And we went and had a great time. And if you have an opportunity to go and visit Baylor, they have a Black Gospel Museum there. They got a $2 million endowment, and man, they are archiving Black gospel music, and they let you know it's Black gospel music. And so if you have an opportunity to go and visit Baylor, if you pass it through Waco on your way to Austin or wherever, stop in at Baylor and see that Black Gospel Museum. But again, you guys go ahead and register for the TCC Community Gospel Choir. We have a great time in there. We have a great choir. It is really growing. In April the 30th, as a matter of fact, we're going to have a dinner theater. And so you'll be able to come and eat and listen to some great gospel music and then some other genres of music. And so there you have that information. And so again, guys, we're excited tonight. Our special guest is with us, Miss Marveta Johnson. I had to ask her how to pronounce her name because I was getting ready to call her Marveta, but it's Marveta. She got me right, got me together real early. So we're happy to have Marveta with us tonight. And so welcome to Pajama Praise, Marveta. I met you via Dr. William Brown, who's the psychology chair at the South Campus, TCC South Campus. And so we're going to hear Marveta's story tonight. And before we start our interview, we're going to have a word of prayer. And then we're going to get into the interview. Let us bow. Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. Father, we thank you for being a kind God. Thank you for being a forgiving God. Lord, you sent your son who died for us. And now we're living testimonies of your goodness and your grace and your love and your mercy and your kindness. Your word says that your mercy endures forever. And we believe your word. Your word cannot lie. Your word will not fail. And so we just say thank you for Sister Marveta, who's with us tonight, who's going to share her story, encourage people, Lord, equip people, inspire people to go on. We know that we're living in a time that will try men's souls, Lord, but you're the creator of our souls, Lord. You put the breath of life in us, Lord, and we say thank you for that. And we thank you again for our speaker, Sister Marveta, and the works that she has done and the work that she's going to do. Lord, we pray for our country. We pray for leadership in our country. Lord, we pray for those who will go and vote tomorrow. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in a democratic country, Lord. And Father, we know that it is through your word, Lord, that we're kept. Father, we know that you have angels watching over us, Lord. You have ministers that preach and feed our souls and our minds. And we just say thank you, Lord, for being a gracious God. And Father, we thank you again for this opportunity to share your word and inspire people. Lord, in the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And so we have Sister Marveta with us tonight. And so, Sister Marveta, tell us who Marveta Johnson is.
First, Dr. Nixon, I want to thank you so much for having me on your show, Pajama Praise. I think it's such a cool name. Just the name alone just made me want to just come and see what you're all about. So I've been kind of spying on you with your old shows and just kind of getting into the spirit of what Pajama Praise is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you taking the opportunity during COVID to still give the world something. So I think that that's beautiful. And then that you continued it, because a lot of people stop things after that time period. But for you to be celebrating, coming up on 6 years, right?
6 years, March 30th.
Yeah. And I think that that's really good. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
So, and also to your people that are watching, I appreciate you taking the time as well. So, I am a pastor's daughter from the Midwest, and I'm here with you today. I want to just acknowledge Dr. Brown from TCC, who I was introduced to through one of my mentors, Mr. Clarence Miller. And it's relevant that I say that because that's really what my work is all about, is to make sure that we really acknowledge those individuals who have really showed up for us, as Black people specifically, because we have had a very different journey than the majority of those on the planet. There's something different about Black folks in America. So those individuals who do take the time to show up for people, I with everything in me like to acknowledge those individuals, and also Dr. Gwen Morrison, who has been a real inspiration to me and encouragement to me as I have been on this journey that I'm doing now. So I just wanted to acknowledge those individuals before I tell you about myself.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
So again, I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And yes, there are Black people in Milwaukee, because I get that question all the time. Yes, there are.
It's
And
about
yes,
three of y'all, huh?
no, Milwaukee is full of Black folks. It depends on what side of town you go to. Now, that's the question.
Okay.
And yes, I am a Packer. So to all you Cowboys fans, let me go ahead and put that out there. Yes, I am a very proud cheesehead.
Okay.
So, but yes, I am very blessed to have come from a beautiful family and a beautiful foundation in Milwaukee. My mother's family were pillars in the community there, the Nash family. We had the first Black grocery store, in the community. It's several different businesses and churches came out of our family lineage. And So I was really blessed in that respect. And also my father's family, who our family name on my father's side is the Hill family. And
Mhm.
they weren't from Milwaukee, but all of them have really given of themselves to their communities wherever they are. A lot of entrepreneurs on both sides of my family, very involved in churches and community work, social services. So I come from a people who care about the people.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So that is my foundation as a child. And but what's so interesting is I life changes,
Mhm.
and often when life changes, it comes like a thief in the night. It
Mhm.
comes when you're not expecting it. We always know that things can happen. It's always in the back of our minds. Life, there's um, changes in our politics. There's changes in our jobs. We lose jobs, we get new jobs. We have children. We experience loved ones that transition, and so life is full of changes.
Mhm.
However, we're not always prepared for those changes, even though we know that they're coming.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's what my journey has been all about, is knowing that these changes are a part
Mhm.
of life, but how much do we really prepare for those changes?
Right.
And so
So
I
let's kind of back up a little bit. So let's go back to, because I always like to set it up. I
okay,
want to
okay.
know, you tell us who you are, but I want to know who Marveta is from a child.
Okay.
Where you, how was you kind of talked about your community, that y'all were trailblazers in the community. But what was school like for you? Because all of that is a part of who we are. How was school for you growing up? Started elementary school.
I grew up a real loner. And not alone, but a loner.
Right, right.
And all of my friends were my cousins and the girls that I went to church with. That was my
Mhm.
community. I also grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and we were not very many black people out there at all. So that also impacted my social experiences, because it was always like that. We were one of a few black families in the communities that we lived in, but I always had a thirst for my people. So it kind of put me in an in between stage. The kids in
Mhm.
the city, some of those who I went to church with, kind of isolated because we lived in the suburbs. You too white for the black kids, and then at school you too black for the white kids. So I kind of grew
Mhm.
up in that kind of a dynamic. Loved sports, but I was an outside kind of a sports girl. I like to climb trees and ride
Okay.
bikes and swim. Um, so I wasn't really involved a whole lot. I did forensics and debate and different things like that, but it wasn't as much social. Um,
Okay.
yes, that's kind of my early childhood.
So
Later on,
who were your influences? Who would you say really influenced you? Who caught your attention at an early age?
this is gonna sound so weird. This is gonna
Mhm.
sound so weird. My closest friend was my eighth grade teacher.
Okay.
And I was just in awe of this lady.
Mhm.
And so she was an inspiration to me all the time. And I know it sounds weird because I'm in the eighth grade and I'm trying to hang out with my teacher all the time, after
Mhm.
school, before school. But I was just in awe of this lady. And her name was Ruth Owens, very committed, just loved her students, so I
Mhm.
was never one that really got into, I didn't have idols like in entertainment and things like that. I was kind of more intrigued by sitting under elders all the time.
Mhm.
So that was kind of my thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So you had an old spirit or old soul
Yes.
as a youngster.
Always, always. But
Mhm.
I enjoy spending time with people who are my seniors, 20 plus, but I
Mhm.
equally enjoy spending time with those who are much younger than me,
Mhm.
because I get so much from both sides. So that's kind of my thing, just hanging out with elders.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And so this eighth grade teacher, she caught your attention. So would you say that you try to um, mimic her, or walk the way she walked, talk the way she talked? Was she articulate, and you wanted to speak the way she spoke?
She was so confident in who
Mm.
she was, the way that she moved.
Oh.
She was a rebel, but she was a very poised rebel. And I really
Mhm.
admired her for her ability to speak her mind in whatever surroundings she was in. And I saw that, even though it was in school, I could see, even though I was just in the eighth grade, I could see her challenge different things that didn't make sense to her, and the way that she taught us, in our history, even though it was a white school, she really gave us a lot of Black history all year long. And
Mhm.
so she really was a very organic person, a very authentic person. And I always wanted to be that. I always wanted to be someone who would be true to myself inside. And that's the
Mhm.
example that she gave me, you know? So, and it was
Mhm.
really interesting too, because she was also my mother's closest friend. Well, one of my mother's closest friends. And so when I
Okay.
went to school and I found out that she was going to be my teacher, I cried. I was so upset. I did
Oh,
not want to be in my mother's friend's class. But after I had the opportunity to just really see this lady outside of my mother, but really see her, she was my biggest inspiration in life.
mhm. Mhm.
Hmm.
And so now here you are in the year 2026, and even before now, you've been advocating for people. Now, what brought that on? What made you want to step out and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to look out for people, and I'm going to stand up and speak out for them." What gave you? So your teacher inspired you in that
Hmm.
regard, but what else influenced you or inspired you to be an advocate?
Well, I think it was always in me, and she was the first one to notice that. And I think my earliest memory was pushing back, during Black History time, and during time when I wanted to know more about my people. And because I was so boisterous with that in school and in classes, she pushed me to be on student councils. I was student council president and different things like that. So I've always been one to kind of put it on the table, nah, we need to address these things. So when other people would kind of sweep things under the rug, or not really want to address things that were really happening, it really caught my attention. So I've always been somewhat of a rebel. When things don't make sense to me, I'm going to ask some questions. and
Mhm.
and I'm not the type to just kind of go along to get along. That's just not me. So I think the biggest time was in the 80s when the crack epidemic got really, really bad. And in
Mhm.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it was horrible because the whole inner city was pretty much employed by the factory jobs. And
Mhm.
so it was like the factory jobs were leaving at the same time crack was finding its way into the city. And
Mhm.
so my father, who was a minister, but he also had a lot of real estate.
Mhm.
And when people stopped paying rent, he didn't just put everybody out. You know what I'm saying? Because it came in so fast, and I can remember how life just shifted really fast. Because
Mhm.
when you grow up in that kind of a business, your life depends on these people paying their rent.
Right.
So I can remember the shift, but I was so grateful when I look back at that time in life where my father made the decision to he kind of was fighting the system. himself inside of our church, and that mattered to me when I saw the choice where you can lose money by keeping these people in homes, or you can try to figure out what you can do and try to save families. And so he was very crafty with being able to do both, and I saw that, and it really, it just stuck in my core, how we as Black people, we have to have a village. We have to have people fighting for us. So I've always been that one to kind of address things, whether it be in corporate America, when the payroll didn't come out the right way with bonuses. Hey, we need to talk about this, instead of just being so accustomed to get along and not really addressing things, and using our voice. So I've kind of always been a bit of a rebel and a bit of an activist.
So now your organization, or one of your organizations, Black America Speaks, Legacy Project. Tell us about that.
So the Black America Speaks Legacy Project is pretty much like what you were talking about on your onset when you were talking about the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and just sometimes things that we forget about people, things that they have done. So Black America Speaks Legacy Project is here because I think it's time for us to really learn how to shine the light on individuals who are not the common. I think we have gotten so stuck as a people in looking at the traditional sources for wisdom. I think we, in our minds, we believe if you come with a lot of letters behind your name, if you're wearing certain colors, if you have a certain political party, if you have a number of zeros behind your name, that equates to wisdom. But I believe that there's so much wisdom in the barbershops and in the beauty salons and in the corner stores. I believe that we are missing out on jewels that have really looked at life from a different perspective, and sometimes from a perspective that has not been as conditioned. And I'm educated, so I'm not talking against education by no means. However, I think that we have been really trained and programmed to believe that certain people have a voice and other people's voices are not worth listening to. And when we're looking at the condition of this world right now, I think it's time for us to start considering finding some of those diamonds in the rough and giving them a platform. So that's what Black America Speaks Legacy Project is all about. It's birthed out of me honoring my Baba, who was a teacher to me, and his name was Dr. William Rogers, and he was one of the professors who helped to start the Afroecology department at UW Milwaukee, right? And also my father. So when I look at these individuals and I see how much they poured out of their lives, and when they transition, their stories deserve to be told. Their legacy deserves to be crystallized. Their wisdom deserves to be passed on from generation to generation. So because I wanted to do that for people who have really inspired me, I want to create the atmosphere and a platform where we as a community can honor people who have really, really inspired us, those who are often not recognized the way that they really should be. So that's kind of the background of Black America Speaks Legacy Project.
So when we talk about community, so when I was growing up, we actually had true communities. I mean, we have I guess we have associations now, where we see people in passing or what have you, but we had true communities. I think I shared with you the other day when we were talking that we had elderly people that sat out on the porch. People had porches, and us kids, we would go and sit on the porch and listen to the elderly people talk, and they would talk to us like we were grown folk. Just sit and listen. You're not really being able to process what they were talking about. But as we got older, my grandmother, Dora Bride, she was the greatest influence of my life ever,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't have a high school diploma, but she's very, very intelligent. And she, one of the things she always said to me as a little boy, she said, always be intelligent. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what intelligent was, but I had an idea of what she was talking about. And she would say things to me, as at 9 and 10,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't register, didn't make sense. And some of it I didn't like, because it went against what I thought at that time. But now that I'm older, I get what she was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Miss
Mm-hmm.
Miss Johnny Scott, lived on the street. Miss Iva Mae Smith,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
my aunt Clara Jackson.
Yes.
These were older people. And see, back then people had porches, and when we talk about community, the kids were in the community. You could go
Mm-hmm.
to the next street and find the same thing,
Right.
and then we had respect. Kids would say things in the street. I mean, every now and then we'd let one fly out of our mouth,
Yeah.
but around an adult, I mean, and then to talk back to an adult, I mean, it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And so when you talk about wisdom and legacy,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that's what you're talking about. Am I on the right street?
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you even mention all those names, because that is literally what this is about, is really paying giving them their flowers, regardless of if we have to put them on their tombstone, or if they're still here to be able to receive them, but to continuously acknowledge those who have poured into us,
Mm-hmm.
because even listening to you talk about, how the kids back then would never disrespect elders and things like that. And my heart goes out on both sides. And the reason is
Mm-hmm.
because the elders deserve to be respected and honored. But at the same time, I know that those youth have really been kind of lost by the wayside a little bit too, because as we grew in the community and we started going mega with everything, we forgot about the micro. As we went macro in the churches, and we went macro in businesses and all those different things, we forgot how important the everyday relationships really, really are. And I think, like, sitting on the patio, sitting on the porch, my favorite thing in the entire world to do, and anybody who knows me will tell you that, is to sit on the patio and just have
Mm-hmm.
dialogue, with some lemonade, or whatever it is you drinking, whatever. But just to spend the time, because we're so trained to go, 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 but we're missing the jewels in life that
Right.
really are the connecting piece to keep us human, that keep us with compassion. And I think that we're disconnected from that on both sides, as elders and the youth. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is a way of bringing conversations back together, so that we can not only, Black America Speaks Legacy Project is to capture our history in real time, where we can
Mm-hmm.
have conversations in the home environment as we're honoring elders, and we're honoring ancestors, and we're telling the stories and recording the history at the same time. But even bigger than that, what it's doing is exactly what you said: creating a space, a platform at
Mm-hmm.
these homes to have engaging conversations, so elders can pour into the youth the wisdom, but the
Mm-hmm.
youth can also give life back to the elders, because they the innovative ideas, and sitting playing chess together and cooking in the kitchen together. We're
Mm-hmm.
missing the connectivity in our communities that really kept Black people alive. So
Mm-hmm. So one of the things you talked about was values and principles that sustain the community. When you mentioned academia earlier, academia, and it's funny that um, you know people learn from other people, and some of those people, when you get down to the root of it, some of those people learn from people that didn't have a college degree, didn't have a
absolutely.
high school diploma.
Hmm.
I've been looking at these Black history moments, all month, and they talked about people who created things, and now, when they get to the universities now, there are scholarly things that some of those things were created again by people that didn't even have a high school diploma.
Absolutely.
And so when we're talking about values and principles that sustain the community, it keeps going back to what you're talking about, that legacy of those people, that for one, they kept the community together,
Right. And that's what I think that we have to get back to, so the Black America Speaks Legacy Project is a space for us to come and just be family. Be what does it even mean to be, Black in America, and not so much what the media has shown us, and then we act that out, because we're seeing these images of what successful Black people, especially when you think about our youth, and they don't have as much to look forward to anymore, because it seems like the possibility of a comfortable life gets further and further away from them every year. But simultaneously, they're being flooded with images of reality shows that don't really reflect Black reality, not all of it, and they're being flooded with images of shows like Power and Black Mafia Family. And I'm not speaking against anything, but what I am saying is that we cannot continue to just show the images of anything associated with drugs and violence and overly sexualized. And then we see the images of success. They live in these big, beautiful homes, and they have these cars, and they dress a certain way and can travel wherever they want to go. But these images are coming from people who are bringing destructive storylines into our children, so we have to take responsibility for that, because that is a part of the Black story, but it's not the only Black story. We lost the shows like the Cosby Show and A Different World, and the ones that were showing. This is at the same time where HBCUs are so celebrated, and conscious hip hop, rap was coming out, and it was really celebrating Black life on a very positive note. But the media did not get behind those storylines. They chose to shut that down, and they flooded the destructive shows, and those shows got a lot of support financially. So what are they left to see? They don't want to struggle like we did anymore. That's a dead story. They don't want that. So what do we do to help bridge the gap and really give them something else to look forward to? And that's why I think we have to learn how to come back together with core values in a very, very, very basic grassroots way, and show the beauty in Black family. And it's not based on all that destruction that the world gets on the screens, on the big screens.
Right. So how do we? Before I ask you this question, who is Jade?
Who is Jade? Jade is one of the young ladies who we work together, just building this community. So she could be my daughter. She's young enough to be my daughter, but we studied together, and we are coming together to help build this community.
Okay.
I don't see the notes. I'm not paying attention to it. So yeah.
And so we out there now. We're out there. We're 20, 30 years in. So how do we get back to the basics, the fundamentals of not only being academically astute, but having that common sense, using common sense, as the old folk would say. Absolutely. Using common sense. How do we get back to a place of growth? Because again, academia will make us think we're smarter than we really are. But thank God we had those elderly people who had wisdom.
Absolutely.
So how do we get back there?
And I think we have to go back to Big Mama's house. We literally have to go back to Big Mama's house, because that's where we learned the basics. That's where we learn what our values are, because we watched how Big Mama was. But when we're living in a world now where Big Mama grandmothers are younger than they were, and a lot of them are working just the same as the daughters and just the same as the sons, we need to get back to creating spaces where we come together and just be as Black people, and have the dialogues and share the wisdom. And it's a joint conversation. It's not just about elders pouring into the youth the wisdom, but the youth has so much to offer with their innovative ideas that can bring new life and new inspiration to elders who think that their time is kind of fizzling out, but they still have so much to give. And when we can learn how to work together and sit and have these dialogues together, that's when I think we start resetting as a Black community, as a collective Black family. To me, this is really what the churches were in the 50s and the 60s, before they started to grow into mega churches, but the churches really served in the community. They taught the word on Sunday mornings, but 7 days a week, most churches was open, and they was a place for people to come hang out, choir rehearsal going on. People who didn't have food could go in their church kitchen sometimes, and one of the elders was going to put them together a little snack pack to go eat, or something to go home to their families. You can go and talk to the mothers, and it's not no big to do all the time. It's just having a relationship. It's not taking pictures on and posting them about what you did for somebody, but just doing, just being. And I think that's the gap that I'm really working to fill. So the Black America Speaks Legacy Project is really the conversation, but it takes place in Big Mama's house, in these different community homes. So we have a place where it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. And if we can get all the Divine Nine to come together on a level of collectively, we're still Black people. And right now we are in a state of emergency. So how can we come together as Black people based on that, opposed to all the things that divide us, and start there? And I think that the living room is the best place to do it. The kitchen is the best place to do it, because that's where people get comfortable. They start to let their guards down, and they start to just kind of relax a little bit, and we can build a different kind of relationship when we have these almost like clubhouses in the middle of our communities.
While you were talking, I can always relate to the church side of things, and you can too. I mean, you're PK, and so one of the things that has been lost in, I see Pastor Floyd Brooks is on with us tonight. One of the things that has been lost in many churches is the learning part of the church. People want to go and hear good sermons. And you know what, man, I love good preaching. Sometimes during the week I'll get on YouTube and pull up different people that I like to hear them speak. But I heard a preacher say this one time. He said that you can't tell the people what to do. You have to teach them what to do. And so I think that's one of the things that has been lost. Whereas we grew up going to Sunday school in the Baptist church, we had Baptist Training Union. Then even in night service, I mean, it was a little more relaxed service, and so you kind of learn more. And then on Tuesday nights we had youth meeting. We had youth meeting and then youth choir rehearsal. And at youth meeting, we always did something that involved the Bible. You had to learn different verses. I remember, and I think this was in Baptist Training Union, we had to learn the church covenant. Haven't been led as we believed. I mean, we had to learn all of it, or as much of it as we could. And so I think we talked about this last week when we spoke. So whoever they is, they're educating us, but we're not educating us.
Right.
And so I think it's important that I can speak from the church standpoint that we need to get back to the training part in the church, because most people, the other week I went to they had this Bible drill thing, and I went, and they were calling out these different, they said, who did blah, blah, blah. And they were impressed that I was able to answer like 99% of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
For one, of course, I read the Bible, but I mean, I grew up having to learn that stuff. I mean, you know, if you grew up in church, I mean, you would know most of that stuff, you know.
Right. Right. And what I want to see happen is for us to get back to that, but even on a more basic level than that, because at Big Mama's house, her grandchild that's a Muslim gonna be just as welcome as the grandchild that's a Baptist, and the one that's a Presbyterian, and you know, one that is a holiness church, and one that don't go to church at all, you know, and then the one who does politics is just as welcome as the one who may be on the corner selling something. But here's the thing. When we bring them all together, and in Big Mama house, we are just family, we have a better opportunity of reaching each other and helping each other to see from the other's perspective, because in all honesty, you can get a lot more. I've experienced a whole lot of Jesus work from people who don't never go into the church. You know what I mean? But they live the principles of sowing and receiving and family and taking care of each other and making sure that everybody eats. And, you know, they live the principles that Jesus lived as he walked the earth. So I'm looking to even more basic than, because I want everybody to see how important this is, not just centered around any particular group, but if we could just come into agreement in this area. I am Black, I'm in America, and I know that my people need to lock in right now. And if we can start there and start building on what we have in common, instead of the things that separate us, and hear each other, because sometimes we can really learn if we stop talking at each other and start dialoguing together. And I think a lot of that has to do with the atmosphere. You know, I think a lot of that has to do with, if the only time that we get together with people who don't think like us is inside of a big building where we can't really have real conversation to get to really, really understand why you think like that. You know, why do you prefer this over that? How do we even have an opportunity to reach each other if we don't even create the space to have conversation?
So where did you get this? Is this your proverb, or did you get this proverb from somewhere? You say the Creator gives the vision, the ancestors pave the way, I walk it out.
That's mine.
Okay.
And what that means to me is God has given all of us a purpose, you know, and the ability to tap into that. When I say the ancestors paved the way, when I sit down and I think about the conversations that I had with my father and my mother, and I think about the conversations that I had with Dr. Rogers and Miss Owens and some of the other people who are not here anymore, they've been paving the way. They've been opening up the doors for me by teaching me just based on their own understanding and sharing with me. And and when we spend time with each other, we can help pull those things out. So that's where that Proverbs comes from. You know, it's already inside of us. And when we can, and this is really what Big Mama's house is all about, because Big Mama gonna watch them kids and she's gonna see who got a natural, you know, act for this and a natural act for that. And she's going to encourage those kids who are really artistic to, you know, draw a little bit more, or going over there and beat on that rock with those sticks out there, you know, because she sees some artistic ability in there. My mother was very good like that with my children. My one son, my oldest son, gifted in anything, but anything electronics and building things. But he used to shadow my father, you know, going to work on his houses with him when he was very young, 10 and 11 and 12 years old, you know, and then he was in the booth at the church because he had a natural knack for that. So it's creating the spaces for them to be who God, the talents that are placed inside of them. My youngest son is he's naturally gifted with music, you know, so he was one of the church drummers starting at 4 years old. You know, he would go to the adult choir rehearsals because he had a natural gift. These are the things that my mother pushed that, you know, so these are the things that Big Mama does. There's a young lady who is in the circle with me, and she has her son. This boy is born to be a politician. The way he thinks so, and he's only 7 years old, but you can see it on him that he's an independent thinker. And if we can learn how to encourage our children to be who they are organically, opposed to programming them according to what the system tries to tell us are the jobs to have, and we're conditioning their minds instead of really seeing who God made them to be and helping that's Big Mama stuff. That's the kind of stuff that happens in the grandmama's home because she's paying attention to the kids in a different way. So,
you know, one of the things you talked about in your writings was the idea of hip hop. Now, tell us about that. What hip hop means, or what that term stands for.
I think this is one of the most important conversations that Black people in America can have, is what we really had when hip hop was introduced to the scene. And it came in the early 80s. And hip hop actually means higher infinite power, healing our people. That's all it means. And but this name came from artistic kids on the East Coast who just wanted a way to express. So they danced, they did break dancing, you know, graffiti, rapping, and we get caught up. A lot of people older don't understand the power in hip hop. They probably understand it, but not to the point of where if we could really regain control of some of our own legacy, what that can do for us as a community. Because hip hop really was in position to be reparations for the Black community. It really was. Because if you think about it, it shows up in all of advertising. I don't care if it's sports, if it's big movies that are on the screen, they always got some rapping going on in the background, you know, just to kind of create that energy, that synergy, and kind of hype the crowd, you know, whether it's looking at an action movie or you looking at some sports, the basketball, football, all of it, because there's a synergy, there's an energy that comes along with that. But what is that? What's the real power behind that? In the early 80s, when hip hop first came out, it came out as conscious rap. So these were the stories and words that Black kids were coming up with, really to elevate the people. But it did not get the support that it needed. And then you had another group of people who telling their stories too, but their stories are different. They're not telling the stories of the positive things that's going on in the community. They rapping about the violence. They rapping about police brutality. But here's the trickery. The media, the powers that be, the money was given to back the storyline of the destruction. And it came in Black faces. So we really had an opportunity to support these kids when they came out with conscious rap. We didn't do that because it was different. You know, it wasn't the type of language that we were accustomed. Now, that's my era and probably yours too, but I'm talking in the mind frame of elders not really supporting that when it first came out. Right. But see, other people saw the power in that. And they came and they put the finances behind all the destruction, the gangster rap. I mean, gangster rap was really the shadow side of conscious hip hop. But they chose to put the finances behind that and put Black faces. So now we're demonized through the over-sexualized music. We're demonized through the music that has nothing but drugs and violence in it. But there's so much more to the story. So I think it's important for us to really kind of pull back and see the power that we have with our voice, and what would happen if we decided to take that power back into our communities, be mindful of the words and the language that we're using, and because it's really spells that you speaking this out over music, so if we're mindful of that and we support it with our own Black dollars, and we supported the messages of those who are really trying to flood the community with something positive. So these are our choices, but we chose not to do that, because a lot of times we demonize that which we don't understand. So we wouldn't have the elders to come and sit and really listen to the music, because they didn't like the beats. They was talking too fast. But sometimes if we slow down and we understand, and we need to bridge some gaps and have some dialogue to say, okay, but this is still reaching out to this community. So maybe we do need to pay attention to the words that they're speaking on, because that was a cry out for help. And we missed it as a community.
So there's a beef going on between T.I. and 50 Cent. And so I heard one of the disses that T.I. did about 50 Cent, and I had to sit there and listen for a minute to see where it was going. And so T.I. was basically telling him, you cause all this trouble, but you don't want any smoke, or you don't want any heat, or something. And even, it was powerful in the sense that, wow, you got all of this through music and through the hip hop or the rap,
Absolutely.
And so even as it can be used in a negative context, what if you turn that around and used it? I get what you're saying,
Absolutely. I mean, because think about it, the funding, all of the money that was put behind the gangster rap, it fueled the prisons. It helped that pipeline to prison. It activated the anger inside of our children, and they fed off of that. And that was an expression. And had we taken the opportunity to listen to the words and listen to the cry out for help, and had some real dialogue and try to intentionally change the stories, then there would be, it's the same power, but we would have a different storyline that would be elevating our people opposed to killing our people, because they took our words, demonized them, and sold it back to us as a weapon of mass destruction in our faces, and then put us on screen to show the entire world how destructive Black people in America are. And we have an opportunity to change that narrative, and we still do. It's just, are we willing to do it? Or do we stay stuck on what is opposed to what can be?
So again, how do we get back to a place of common ground? And that's not even the term I want to use. How do we get to a place of the basics, where fundamentals? That's what I want to say. Fundamentals of what is right, what is wrong, what is best. Even though you powerful enough to do and say some things, wisdom says don't do it. Do what's best, not what's feasible. Or what's at the moment, do what's best, So how do we get back to that? Because, some people think if you're not popping off or talking big or talking strong, you're weak. So how do we get back to the fundamentals of what's right and decent,
I mean, I think it's exactly that. People have that image that if you're not talking a certain language or conversation that you're weak, but we really need to change the narrative. That's why we have to go back inside Big Mama's house, because we need to start looking at ourselves and deciding, how do we really see ourselves? And then how do me as in me, how do I actually see Marveta? Not out of the lens of the rest of the world, but what do I really think about myself? And then I need to know about these people that I live in a home with, or the people in my community. So because we don't have the family structures that we used to have, like everybody really is very divided now, even with the internet, and you can have a living room full of people and everybody is in their own world because they're all on the phone, and then they're in their own algorithm, and we all live in different realities in the same home. And that's dangerous. We have to get back to knowing who we are as people. And I really don't even see no other way doing it other than coming back into a home setting. I literally don't, because I think we have to intentionally go back. We have to make a statement to say we're going back into the home. We're going back into the first classroom. We're going back into the womb, because the home represents the mother's domain, and that's the mother that teaches the child from infancy. Even when the baby is still in the womb. Not that it's not just as important for the father to be present. It absolutely is. However, it's still known as the nurturing, and those things really do come from the mother. And so when she has been overloaded with trying to keep up with working full time and going to school so she can better herself and her family, and trying to start a business to keep up with the world, who's nurturing? Who's teaching compassion? Who gonna know how to cook greens and dressing in another 10 years? You know what I'm saying? Like we don't even know the home remedies anymore. We run into the doctor right away over everything. And now years later, we find out we're being poisoned all the time, instead of getting some of them greens out the backyard that you grew yourself and bringing them inside the house and cooking them together as a family. So I don't see any other way for us to do it outside of finding the common ground as a Black collective family. Yeah. And that has to be done in the home, to me, because that's where we're most vulnerable.
So I have a question. So with all that we've been through, the Black people, African American people, it blows my mind. I'm going to tell you something that really is horrific to me. I was born in 1966. I'll be 60 this year. And just a few years before I was born, they were just now allowing Black people to eat in certain restaurants, to ride in the front of buses, to have access to certain things. And here we are in the year 2026. So we've had a Black president, we've had a Black vice president. I mean, we've got some of our African American people that are leading corporations and everything. And so, some people will say, oh, we've come a long ways. But then when you really take a look at things, have all of us come a long way? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Some have. I don't know if you've ever read a letter from a Birmingham jail. Martin Luther King was going off on everybody. You hear me? On Black people and white people, and the others, whoever. Some of them was telling, well, wait, just wait. And Martin Luther King was livid. He was saying, wait on what? I mean, how long do you want to wait? What are we waiting on? Now's the time, to do what's right, be fair, and so one of the things you talked about were cultural milestones. And that's where I was going with that. Even today, what do you think some of the cultural milestones are, or what do you think some of the cultural milestones should be?
That is actually one of the real reasons that I'm working on this, is because I think that we need to really decide as a collective Black family in these small circles, what are our milestones? What are our goals as a family? What do we stand for? And I think that one of the things that I think we have to do is look at the condition that we're in right now and understand that we can't keep doing things the same way. We absolutely cannot keep doing things the same way. There are a lot of people that have checked out of the system because they saw it a long time ago. Oh, this is a hamster wheel that we're on. And there's so much wisdom under the bridges that we really totally dismiss. And one of the things that I wanted to see us do is to create space to listen to the wisdom outside of the traditional lens that we are given. And really pay attention, because we've been conditioned to go a certain way over and over and over and over. And I'm not talking about like politics and how well, that's not what I'm talking about. Even the American dream. I'm a master degreed woman. I graduated at the top. I delivered the commencement speech when I got my diploma, represented the master's level students. The name of my speech was Never Give Up. That was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When I came down here to Fort Worth, I've never received any a role, a position that I was really qualified for, but I trained so many people who I reported to, because they look different than I did. But we have to really understand that trying to get these, I don't want to say kids because they're younger, 20 something, 30 something. I think we have to stop trying to feed them the same stories that we've been fed. Stop trying to condition them to believe that success comes through higher education. It is a part of. And again, I'm so grateful for my education, and it says something about the discipline of a person. So I'm not taking anything away from that. But what I do believe that we have to do is start teaching people the importance and the value of thinking for themselves outside of the programs, to say, this is how you're supposed to, this is what success looks like, because it doesn't look the same for everybody, and sometimes success is just having a comfortable place to call home. It don't all have to be this big, elaborate, and it's okay if that is it, but we need to get back to what is the basics. So that's really what I'm trying to do. I think that I think it's crucial for us to tell the stories of those who have imparted in us from a very grassroots stage, but also simultaneously come together and say, what do we want to do with this? Because these kids don't want what we got. They don't want to work 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week and not have nothing in another. They don't want that. And I don't want that for them. But we have to start somewhere to try to change it. And that takes listening to them as well as giving to them. So it's, to me, we have to go both ways with it.
Right.
I think your question.
No, it did. And I think, again, we want them to come through a system we came through and be happy, because I personally think that the school day is too long. I mean, it is too long, because schools, I sub in the elementary schools, and they start at 7:30 and they get out at 3:10, and those kids check out at about 1 o'clock. At about 1 o'clock, school is over with, but yet they sat there for another 2 hours, because that's the school system. The system, the work week is 40 hours because that is the system. That's the way things are done. And this generation is coming, they're asking why, I mean, just like they're freaking out. The state has taken over the school district because they're saying the kids aren't reading on grade level. Oh, really? What's grade level? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's grade level? Because some of the kids you said that they weren't going to be successful, won't be anything. You know, these people have PhDs and master's degrees, and they're running corporations and businesses, people that you wrote off, you know,
Right. Absolutely.
because you said they weren't reading on grade level. And
Mhm.
some of the kids aren't reading on grade level, but that does that mean that they're just totally illiterate? Well,
Absolutely.
academically, yes, I mean, are they passing your state test? Probably not. And
Hmm.
and my thing is, some of the kids are probably saying, "Well, why should I?" You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You know, why
Hmm.
should I? What am I going to get out of this? I mean,
Hmm.
of course, we understand, but here's big picture. Here is big picture. So you're preparing a workforce. That's what you're doing. You're not
Absolutely.
you're not preparing independent thinkers.
Absolutely.
And I know what I'm talking about. I've served on committees that was the goal, to create a workforce, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
And again, you have to have people that is going to complement the society, because we
Hmm.
have to have doctors, we have to have lawyers, we have to have engineers. You know, you have to have people that are good in finance. You have to have scientists, you know, and that comes through being educated. But
Hmm.
again, you have to have people, you have to make room for people that aren't going to be that they're creative, you know, they want to be in the arts, you know.
Hmm.
My background is in music. I mean, is that all I can do? No, I can do way more than that. But
Hmm.
that's part of it, and you have to make room for that. You know, there's got to be an enjoyment side of life that you know, that I don't know that the current society is willing to. Well, let me say this: the current society wants, but again, we're still dealing with some of the boomers are still in control,
Right.
and Generation X, I think that's our generation.
Yes.
Even we're in between. You know,
Right.
we're in between,
Hmm.
and so when we talk about cultural milestones, um, you know, I guess we have to start leaving them. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And we have to create the space for that conversation to be cross generational because it's their world. You know
Mhm.
that I mean, we're the boomers are on the second half of their life. We are on the second half. You know, if we're looking at it from a, you know, what is the average age?
Mhm.
Um, so they have to have a seat at the table. You know, they
Mhm.
have to be considered. And then I also really kind of want to push back on the mindset that um it's the system that teaches us how to think so we can serve in their system, in the system that keeps us in this slave mentality. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I think that we need to really get back to, okay, so why do we have to allow other people to tell us how to think? And why do we
Mhm.
have to allow other people to tell us this is the way to learn? You
Right.
know, how many children will really, really be able to flourish if we figured out their learning style and not just
Right.
try to put everybody in one box? How many of them are highly intelligent? I've been studying, you know, some of the things that have been called mental disorders. And is it really mental disorders, or is it really just something that you don't understand a different way of communicating? So instead of you acknowledging that you just don't get it, you
Right.
know, and allowing that other individual to be who they are and figure out how to communicate, we're automatically putting them in a category where they cannot learn properly. And that is not the truth. You
Right.
know, a lot of our children have a different style of learning.
Right.
Everybody is not going to process things the same way, but does that mean that they should um, be held at the bottom of their class because they don't learn the same way as this group does? Who
Mhm.
decided that this group is the master of all that we
Right.
need to follow behind? I have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, you look, you are radical.
I told you, I tried to warn you.
Because if you look, if you approach the school systems with that, you know, they just gonna sit and look at you. You know,
Yep.
look, they say, "Oh, we've been successful with graduating this many people, and it worked." But again, what about those that didn't, you know.
And they've been successful at training to be workers, training, because it's a different level of training in different schools. And we do know that some of those Ivy League schools and some of those schools that children, boarding schools, they are not trained to be workers the same way our children in our schools are. You know, and so we really do. And I know they don't want me to come into the school board meetings, and I get that. But if we had enough people to support, and this is what Big Mama's House does, is we get behind. We have, okay, you want our support, you want our vote when it comes to you running for school board. You need to be a part of this community, because we really need to know who you are. You know, we really need to know that you really have the best interests of our students and our children and our community at heart, and not just that you're going to use our votes to get you into a position that you just want to be in. What does that do for us, the people? You know, and so I think that, yes, I am a radical. I did tell you that. But if we can get behind people who are not afraid to speak the truth and call some people out on the table, ruffle feathers a little bit. I don't think we need to continuously go teach our children that we don't have a voice. We absolutely have a voice. All the changes that we have had came through the voice and the fight of a rebel, you know, and maybe they didn't get that support while they were in the fight. Sometimes it comes later on, which is another reason I'm doing Black America Speaks Legacy. You know, sometimes that acknowledgement may come later on, but it comes from the people who are not afraid to really lay down their life. It comes from people like Harriet Tubman, who was willing to put her life on the line all the time to get people out of bondage. It takes that. If we really want to be free, if we really want to be liberated. I have a program, it's a self-mastery program where it's literally designed as we learn who you are as an individual. You should really be able to, like if you're a business owner, you understand this, you really should be able to move to opposed to a 5+ work week, 3.5 days on, 3.5 days off. Why? Because that's balance. And that's the way the universe works. That's the way life works, is balance. And if we can get back to that, we can have a more harmonious life. And what do I mean by that? If you build a team like the young ladies that I'm working with, helping them to be what they love doing naturally and give them that support. That way they're not really working, but it still does something for what I need. And what do? I give them what they need. And I help give them the platform that they need, or introduce them to people that can help get them to the next point in their life. Why? Because we're working it together. It's not just about one or the other. It's about, how do I help this individual take the things that God naturally put inside of them and help that flourish so that they can experience a life of abundance, not just a life of wealth, but that makes you healthier, because you're not working 80+ hours a week, and you're not angry all the time, and your system, your body is not backed up, because it's a healthier lifestyle. This is the way God designed this world to be in balance. You have to have both in order for it to be.
But we've not been trying to think that way. We've been trying to work, you know, to get out there and work hard, work all day, you know, whether you enjoy it or not, just go work, you know.
Right. And are we really going to pass that on to our children? At one point, you're absolutely right. We have not been trained. But how about get behind some of the people who are willing to break some of that programming down? And then let's bring our resources back in and support these kids at who they are naturally, authentically, because there's ways to do it. It's just that we're conditioned to think more in the mindset of anything going. I'm sorry?
We've been trying to think it in an industrial, with an industrial mindset, you know, 5 days a week, 40 hours.
Right. And that's still not enough for most families. That's why you got two parents working. And sometimes if it's two parents in the house, one of them might still have two jobs. Kids have to work nowadays to contribute. This is not a life of abundance that we should have to pass on to our children. It just isn't. We should not be conditioning them and training them for the same miserable life that we complain about. We shouldn't be doing that. Not if we're not putting in the time to actually try to change it. Even if we can't do it in one generation, maybe we can do it in two. But at least we're going in that direction of breaking down some of those programs.
Right. You know, that's powerful. You know, again, you know, I guess we have to get there one step at a time. But we have to make the step to get there. But it's profound. You know, what you're saying is very profound. You know, again, we've been so indoctrinated to think one way, and if we think any other way, you know, we're something is wrong with us. I get it. Oh, I get it.
And I don't even think that we have to do it one step at a time. I really don't, because I think that there are a lot of people organizing in different areas. But if we can create a platform to bring people together, and those who are already really moving in one direction, in a direction of economics, you know, Black economics, and then there may be another group who's moving in the direction of a holistic lifestyle to help us with our bodies. And then there may be another one that's dealing in the direction of really helping us artistically and whatever it may be. But if we learn how to bring it, I don't think we have to slow walk it. Just like Dr. I don't think we're in position. I don't think we have the time. I don't. I think we are at a state of emergency right here, right now. Literally. When we can see our history under attack from all these years that we have been trying to figure out where we come from as Black Americans to begin with. Who is recording the history that we are living right here, right now, today? I don't know who's doing that. Maybe they are, but I want to know, because I want to be a part of the conversation of what are we going to pass on to our grandchildren so that they are not doing this same fight that we're doing in another 100 years. If we want to do something different, we got to start thinking different. If we want them to have a different future, we cannot move in the same structured mindset that we have been conditioned to believe in and think in and move in. It's not going to happen. That's insanity to think that we're going to get something different doing things the same way all the time. It's not going to happen.
Yep. Well, again, like I say, you got some profound thoughts, you know, and that I hope will happen. I mean, I know they can, you know. Again, it will take initiative and effort, you know, again, to synthesize all of the different moving parts into one idea. I mean, it very well could happen, you know.
We've seen it. We saw the Black Panther Party do it. We saw it. It's just, are we willing to do it? Are we willing to put boots on the ground? Are we willing to rebel against the system? And it doesn't even have to be in the traditional mindset of rebel with the drama and the guns. It doesn't have to be that. But are we willing to come together and do something? Because we know we cannot continue the way that we're doing. I'm talking about the same stuff Black Panther Party talked about in the 60s. And they were very successful. They had a lot of things that they needed to fix and a lot of things, but it was still grassroots. And they said, we're not going to worry about what we don't have. We're going to work with what we do have and build from there. And that's the kind of people that I want to work with. I want to work with people who are more willing to say, okay, what do I have to offer, opposed to I don't have this.
So I think that's probably the starting point is, again, what you just said is what can I do,
right?
And doing what you can, giving your portion, you know. And I think the other part of that is we have to respect whatever a person's portion is. I mean, it may not be, some person may be able to give $10,000. Some person may only be able to give $10, but whatever they're able to do, I think we have to respect that. Listen, man, this has been an incredible dialogue. Again, there's a lot there, a lot to unpack. There's a lot of impact in what can happen if some of the steps are taken. Again, we can't all do everything, but we can. Our portion is important, you know.
Absolutely.
I think if if nothing else that you get from the show is do something, make it impactful, do your best to be a part of the solution and not the problem, because when you don't do anything, you're part of the problem. And listen, one of the things I like to do is acknowledge the people who take out their time to watch the show, to be a part of the show, because I think one of the things that's very important is exposure. As people listen in on the show tonight, some of the things I'm sure they had not thought about, but being exposed to the conversation and the information tonight has put something on their mind. And so I always like to thank the people who took out of their busy schedules to sit in and listen in on the show. I see my classmate there, Jackie Foster Kelton. We graduated high school together. Thank you for being with us tonight, Jackie. Jackie was actually on with me 6 years ago, March the 30th, 2020, when we started Pajama Praise. And then Jade, thank you for being a part of the show tonight, encouraging us tonight and being a part. I see my cousin with us tonight, Minister Tammy Washington with Greater Mount Tabor Full Gospel Baptist Church. David Richardson, thank you for being with us. David Richardson. I see, who else do we have here with us? Catrice Reed with Loving Yourself Inside and Out Ministries. Catrice does a lot of work in the community, a lot of outreach, helping people, mentoring the young women at the schools. Thank you for all you do in the community. Dr. Ben Morrison. Hey, Dr. Ben Morrison, thank you for being on with us tonight. Thank you and your family for all that you do for our community in our cities. Brother Albert Joe Reed, my good friend all the way from Killeen, Texas. Thank you so much, Albert Joe, for your continued support. I really appreciate it. Albert Joe, I met a young man from Killeen, a fabulous musician who he sat in and played with us at Baylor last week. Miss Julia Kathy Steptoe, thank you, Julia, for your continued support. Thank you for being with us. Andrea Sanders, I'm going to reach out to you this week. We're going to get you on. Be my special guest. And we're going to talk about how you inspired Pajama Praise, and some things you're doing in the community as well. Sister Bertha Johnson, I see you there. Thank you so much for your continued support, your longtime supporter. Sheila Orr, I see you there. Thank you, Sheila. I think this might have been your first time watching. I'm not sure. Joan Love, how was your trip to South Africa? South Africa. I saw where you were in Johannesburg. That's right, man. I had the opportunity to go to South Africa in 2015. And one of the proudest moments I had, Marveta, is when we flew into King Shaka Airport. You hear me? The Zulu. That's the land of the Zulus. South Africa. Cynthia Casey, thank you so much, Cynthia. And Brother Bobby Cooper, congratulations, Brother Bobby. I saw where they honored you down in Ferris, Texas. Congratulations again. Gay Goss, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Councilman Floyd Brooks, thank you for being with us. Councilman Brooks, thank you for all that you do. Thank you all that you do in ministry. JB Dowdell, thank you for being with us, JB Dowdell. And then my mentor, and this is my true mentor, Marveta. I met her about 40 years ago, Dr. Gwendolyn Caldwell Morrison.
Yes.
She had a program in the Fort Worth ISD called the Grow Your Own program, and I'm a product of that program where they allowed us to go to school and work. And so thank you all so much for being with us tonight. Thank you for your support. I know there's so many others there. I can't always see others, but I see the ones that are on the screen here. This has been a great dialogue, Marveta. We're going to have to bring you back. We're going to have to bring you back next time. We're going to bring you back as an individual, but I also want you to be a part of a panel because there's a lot to talk. And so we talked about everybody doing their part and everyone bringing what they have to offer together. So there might be a thing that we can do, have a panel dialogue and everyone can talk about what they do. And then we synthesize it and bring everybody together.
Absolutely.
As a one-stop shop, where you can learn how to do this, learn how to do that, and then your preservation, that's something that is very much needed. And I applaud you for doing that because again, the generations are coming and they need to know what happened before they got here, how we handle various situations. And so through documenting and as they say in business, if it's not in writing, then it doesn't exist, And so we've got to start putting things on paper. And so again, thank you so much for being with us. So do you have a website?
I actually have a website they're actually working on it now. However, we're preparing to launch. So we haven't fully launched, but we do have a Facebook group. I would love for anybody that is here that is interested. This is grassroots. So I'm actually setting the platform for you to come and be a part of the planning process. And if you go to Black America Speaks Facebook group, we would love for you to kind of get plugged in and we can work it together. I'll tell you what I'm working on. I would love to know some things that you're working on. And if you see ways that we can work together, I'd love to have some sidebar conversations with people. And this is the beginning of the Black America Speaks Legacy Project, which is our recorded history that we're in the process of making and documentaries so people can see the truth about Black America, as well as the beginning of our modern day village with Big Mama houses in the community. And this is a state of emergency. So we're really looking for people who are willing to be a part of this from a grassroots level.
Okay. And so I put that Black America Speaks Facebook page. So you can go there and join and be a part of some of the dialogue and get some of the information from Marveta and others. Yeah, but listen, y'all, we're getting ready to sign off. We've already been on for an hour and a half. So time really goes when you're talking. But again, thank you so much for your platform. Thank you so much for what you're doing in the community. Before I log off, remember the family of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. We don't want to let his works die because he's done some incredible things. I mean, he's done some incredible things. And so we want to keep hope alive. Was that his?
Keep hope alive.
It was his motto, keep hope alive. And man, when I think about people, some of the names that I mentioned tonight, Catrice Reed, Dr. Gwendolyn Morrison Caldwell, Dr. Ben Morrison, Andrea Sanders, some of the others that we mentioned. I mean, those are people that are keeping hope alive. And sometimes, and we talked about this the other day, Marveta, the unsung heroes. We know the people with the names, and so many times we always try to honor people that has been honored already. But what about some of the people, the unsung people whose name is not out in the lights, that's doing incredible things behind the scenes? So we want to keep hope alive. And listen, y'all, before I sign off, hey, listen, y'all go and vote. Some of them are counting on you not to vote. Some of them are already talking about the Republicans want Jasmine Crockett to win the Democratic primary because they know she can't win in the general election. That's a lie from the pits of hell. The only way that she will lose is that we don't go and vote for her. You know, she's
Or if they try to rig it, because she got that.
yeah, you know, she is an intelligent young lady. I mean, she's one of the best politicians I've seen in years. I mean,
Absolutely.
y'all need to really sit and listen to her. I heard her, I sit and watched an hour plus interview she did with Katie Couric. I mean, and she is a brilliant individual. And so let's vote her in. Let's vote for Elisa Simmons. Elisa Simmons, I mean, for the county judge. We need to get Elisa in there so we can bring some practicality, democracy, and then some humanity back to the commissioner's court. And listen, we're getting ready to sign off. Before we sign off, Marveta, if you will give us a closing thought, and we're going to tell our audience good night.
My closing thought is consciousness within is looking at consciousness without. And what that means is we're looking at a world that is in disarray. But that means we have some work to do on the inside of us. Because if we all do the work that we need to inside of us, our world cannot help but to reflect that externally, which is again why we're going back into the home so we can work on ourselves as a community. So I would love for you all to get plugged in so we can do this work together. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Dr. Nixon.
All right. Thank you, Marveta. Hey, listen, y'all join us next week for Pajama Praise. Hey, we're going to have a great time. And listen, it's leading up to our 6th year anniversary, March the 30th, which is on a Monday night when we actually started doing Pajama Praise. 6 years ago, it was on a Monday night. I'm going to put my pajamas on, too. So we're going to go back. I'm going to probably play some music that night, too. So we probably won't have an interview that night. But y'all join in with us that night. I'll play and send me some requests. I'll play your favorite song. How about that? And listen, y'all be safe. Go vote. Y'all continue to pray for each other, love on each other, encourage each other. And as Marveta said, hey, listen, let's get back to community. Let's get back to community values. Let's get back to encouraging and loving on each other. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.